Imagine this. You wake up in the middle of the night, your body frozen in place. A strange hum vibrates through the air, and an eerie, blinding light floods your room. Your heart pounds, but you can't move, can't scream. Then, darkness. The next thing you remember, you're somewhere unfamiliar. Cold metal beneath your back. Strange figures with large black eyes staring down at you. Their hands, long, thin, unnatural, reach toward you. And just like that, you're back in your bed, gasping for air, hours unaccounted for. For decades, people from all over the world have reported similar chilling experiences. Alien abductions. Some wake up with strange scars. Others recall detailed medical examinations, and a few even describe seeing star maps of distant galaxies. Skeptics dismiss these stories as dreams, hallucinations, or tricks of the mind. But what if they're real? Tonight, we dive into the most convincing alien abduction cases ever recorded. Stories so bizarre, so well documented, that even the most skeptical minds have struggled to explain them. Could we truly be visited by beings from beyond the stars? Or is there another explanation hiding in the shadows? Let's find out. Alien abductions are mysterious encounters in which individuals claim to have been taken against their will by extraterrestrial beings, often aboard a spacecraft. These experiences are typically marked by missing time, fragmented memories, and strange physical or psychological after effects. Abductees frequently report waking up in unfamiliar places, often paralyzed, with strange figures looming over them. Many abduction stories share strikingly similar details, even when reported by people from different backgrounds and cultures. Common elements include bright, blinding lights appearing before the experience begins, lost time, where hours or even days vanish without explanation, encounters with strange beings, often described as humanoid with large black eyes, thin bodies, and elongated fingers, medical procedures, including examinations, tissue sampling, and the insertion of implants, telepathic communication, where abductees claim the beings spoke directly into their minds, physical evidence, such as unexplained scars, bruises, or even small metallic implants found under the skin. Despite these eerie consistencies, skeptics offer alternative explanations. Some scientists believe abduction experiences can be attributed to sleep paralysis, a phenomenon where the body remains frozen between sleep and wakefulness, often accompanied by terrifying hallucinations. Others argue that false memories, induced by hypnosis or suggestibility, may create vivid but fictional recollections of alien encounters. Psychological factors, including lucid dreams, trauma, and subconscious fears, may also play a role in shaping these experiences. Yet, with so many cases and so many similarities, the question remains, are these stories mere illusions of the mind, or is something truly beyond our understanding happening to those who claim to be taken? For decades, thousands of people have reported encounters with extraterrestrial beings, but only a handful of these cases have left experts scratching their heads. Some abduction stories are so detailed, so bizarre, and so well documented that they continue to challenge even the most skeptical minds. Let's take a deep dive into 4 of the most convincing alien abduction cases ever recorded. The Betty and Barney Hill Abduction, 1961. The first major abduction case, our first case, takes us back to the early 1960s, to a quiet, empty highway in New Hampshire. Betty and Barney Hill were an ordinary married couple. Betty worked as a social worker, and Barney was a postal clerk. They had no interest in UFOs, no history of strange experiences. Just 2 people on a road trip, heading home from a vacation in Canada. It was late at night on September 19, 1961, when the Hills noticed something unusual in the sky. A bright light followed their car, darting and hovering in ways no known aircraft should. Barney, a military veteran, was alarmed. He pulled over, grabbed his binoculars, and saw something that sent shivers down his spine. A massive, silent craft hovering just ahead. Through the windows, he saw figures staring down at him, watching. Terrified, he rushed back to the car, yelling to Betty that they needed to leave immediately. As they sped away, something inexplicable happened. Their consciousness faded. Their memories blurred. The next thing they knew, they were miles down the road with 2 hours unaccounted for. It was as if time had skipped forward. In the following days, Betty began having disturbing nightmares. Visions of humanoid creatures with large heads and piercing eyes. The Hills couldn't shake the feeling that something had happened to them. Under hypnosis, both of them separately recalled being taken aboard a strange craft, where they underwent medical examinations. Betty even described seeing a star map, which she later drew under hypnosis. Here's the eerie part. Years later, astronomers found that Betty's star map bore a striking resemblance to a real star system known as Zeta Reticuli, which hadn't been charted by humans at the time. Skeptics have tried to explain the Hills' experience as sleep deprivation, stress, or false memories. But the sheer consistency of their separate testimonies has kept this case among the most compelling alien abduction stories in history. The Pascagoula Abduction, 1973. The fisherman's nightmare fast forward to 1973 in the quiet town of Pascagoula, Mississippi. 2 men, Charles Hickson, 42, and Calvin Parker, 19, were fishing along the Pascagoula River when their ordinary night took a terrifying turn. Out of nowhere, a glowing egg-shaped craft descended near them, emitting a high-pitched whirring sound. Before they could react, 3 bizarre humanoid creatures emerged from the craft. These beings were unlike the typical gray aliens described in abduction cases. Instead, they were pale, wrinkled, with claw-like hands and robotic movements. The men were paralyzed, as if an unseen force had taken control of their bodies. The creatures floated them aboard the craft, where they underwent a terrifying examination. Hickson described being scanned by a large mechanical eye, while Parker recalled blacking out from sheer terror. Minutes later, they were back on the riverbank, shaken and confused. The 2 men rushed to the local sheriff's office to report what had happened. The police, skeptical of their wild story, decided to test them. They left Hickson and Parker alone in an interrogation room with a hidden recorder, expecting them to drop the act. But instead, the men continued to speak in panicked, hushed tones, genuinely terrified by what they had just experienced. Skeptics have attempted to explain their story as a hoax or hallucination, but their genuine fear and distress, captured on that secret recording, makes this one of the most compelling UFO abduction cases ever reported. The Travis Walton Incident, 1975. The man who went missing for 5 days, perhaps the most well-documented and controversial abduction case in history, is the Travis Walton Incident. It was November 5th, 1975. Travis Walton was a young logger working in the forests of Arizona with 6 of his coworkers. As they drove home after a long day, they spotted a bright, glowing object hovering above the trees. Thinking it was some kind of aircraft, Walton, out of curiosity, stepped out of the truck to get a closer look. Then, a blinding blue beam shot out from the craft, striking Walton in the chest. He was violently thrown into the air before disappearing entirely. His coworkers, terrified, fled the scene. For the next 5 days, Walton was missing. His coworkers were suspected of murder, as authorities found no sign of him. But then, out of nowhere, he reappeared in a town miles away, disoriented and confused. Under hypnosis, Walton recalled waking up inside a spacecraft, surrounded by humanoid beings with large eyes. He described the interior of the ship in chilling detail: metallic walls, a dimly lit room, and an overwhelming sense of disorientation. He remembered struggling against the beings before eventually losing consciousness. What makes this case stand out is that multiple witnesses saw the beam of light, and Walton himself passed multiple lie detector tests over the years. Though skeptics argue that Walton may have staged the event for publicity, The consistency of his story and the number of witnesses make this one of the most famous and convincing alien abduction cases ever recorded. The Allagash Abductions, 1976. 4 witnesses, 1 terrifying experience. The final case on our list is the Allagash Abductions, an eerie case involving not 1, but 4 witnesses. In August 1976, 4 friends, Jack Weiner, Jim Weiner, Charlie Foltz, and Chuck Rack, set off on a canoeing trip in the remote wilderness of Allagash, Maine. One night, as they sat by the lake, they saw a huge glowing orb hovering in the sky. Mesmerized, they flashed an SOS signal using their flashlight. To their shock, the light responded. The next thing they remembered, they were back at their campsite, but their fire had burned out completely, despite it being freshly built just minutes before. Time had mysteriously vanished. Years later, under hypnosis, all 4 men recalled the same terrifying experience: being taken aboard a spacecraft, subjected to medical experiments, and encountering tall, insect-like beings. Their identical testimonies, combined with their genuine distress, made this case particularly chilling. Skeptics argued that shared hallucinations or suggestibility under hypnosis could explain their experience, but with 4 witnesses and matching memories, the Allagash Abductions remain one of the most compelling alien abduction cases ever recorded. Alien abduction stories have fascinated and terrified people for decades. But why do so many believe these encounters are real? Are they simply vivid nightmares? Or is there something truly unexplainable happening? One major psychological explanation is sleep paralysis, a terrifying condition where a person wakes up unable to move, often accompanied by hallucinations of shadowy figures. Many alien abduction stories share striking similarities with sleep paralysis episodes, suggesting that these experiences might originate from the mind rather than outer space. Additionally, false memories, sometimes unintentionally implanted during hypnotherapy, have been known to create detailed yet entirely fabricated experiences, making some abduction stories questionable. Despite these explanations, many remain convinced that alien abductions are real, especially when considering physical evidence. Some abductees report waking up with unexplained scars, strange implants, or even radiation burns. In rare cases, doctors have removed small metallic objects from alleged abductees, which were later analyzed and found to contain unusual elements. Then there's the scientific skepticism. Many experts argue that abduction stories are simply a mix of cultural influence, vivid imagination, and psychological conditions. But others admit that certain elements, like missing time and multiple witnesses to the same event, remain unexplained. In the end, whether alien abductions are real or a trick of the mind remains a mystery. But one thing is certain: these stories refuse to fade, continuing to spark curiosity and debate about what might truly be lurking beyond our world. Are these stories merely the result of vivid dreams, psychological phenomena, or something far beyond our understanding? The eerie details, shared experiences, and physical evidence leave us with more questions than answers. Could alien abductions be real? Or are they just deeply embedded in our collective imagination? Skeptics may argue that these encounters stem from sleep paralysis, false memories, or even mass hysteria. But what about the cases with multiple witnesses, missing time, and unexplained physical evidence? Can we really dismiss them all as mere coincidences? Now, the question turns to you. Do you believe in alien abductions? Have you or someone you know experienced something unexplainable? Are we truly alone in the universe, or have we already been visited? Let's discuss in the comments below. If you enjoyed exploring these mysterious encounters, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more chilling and thought-provoking content. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies. You never know what might be watching back.